Good morning or afternoon to our very merry Marvelites, and Happy New Year to everyone. Welcome to Marvel Movie Talk right here on the Bladtcast Entertainment Network. A special episode continuing our conversation on Spider-Man No Way Home, our third episode, which is appropriate. As we talk about the movie, we're talking all the spoilers. And who's talking spoilers? Me, Christian Blatt, and Happy New Year to you, Kaitlin Cornell. How are you?
Hi, I'm back. It's good to be back.
It's great to have you back. And not really back, but on the show is Jeff Williams Jr., which are you in your safe room there? And did you forget to stock it?
Yes to both. It's really just a closet slash like my bathroom. I'm at my parents' house still. We're just making it work here. We're just making it work. This has been my office all day as well. Even though it's been a long day, but hey, I fly back home tomorrow.
And I understand you got some snow this morning, some nice Indiana snow.
Yeah, it was great to see snow. I'm gonna be so happy to see it from 30,000 feet.
A man whose adult film industry name was Snow, the one and only Mr. William Sterling. How are you, sir? Happy New
Good.
Year.
I got the mustache for it too. Just like the old days, Christian.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for you to here's your pizza, and here's your pepperoni. I'm ready for you to be that guy.
Why does that pizza delivery man always have a boombox with him?
Yeah, but why would
strip mix? You never know. You never know who you're gonna run into. I never and what I never know. Had no idea this was Marvel Movie Chat. I was like, it's a Bladtcast. So
it's both. That's the beauty of it.
Keeping us on our toes.
Everything on the Bladtcast Entertainment Network is repurposed as a Bladtcast potentially.
That's right.
And as
so
someone who works in,
you just not good.
Yeah, it just didn't work. And as someone who works in the field of podcast production, and at least has and continues to, you might notice there's a very specific way that I do intros when it's for both shows, and you can listen back with an editing ear as to what I say and what I probably take out. But for everyone, we are talking Spider-Man No Way Home, continuing the conversation on Spider-Man No Way Home with the aforementioned William J. Sterling, Kaitlin Cornell, and Jeff Williams Jr. Very excited to talk more about this movie, which I'm only mad that I've only seen twice. And I should have seen it at least 5 times by now. But I've only seen it once. And
one for every villain that comes back.
Yeah, that's what I should do. Yeah. Kate, I believe you just saw it recently. Did you go see it with our friend Happy Chappy?
I did see it with Happy Cappy. Shout out to Happy Cappy. We saw it together on, when did we see it? New Year's Eve.
It was over the weekend, right? Oh,
New Year's Eve.
Nice.
That we saw it. That was our little treat.
So how did you do going? That's 2 full weeks from release. Were there major spoilers in your life, or was the internet / social media surprisingly less shitty about this movie and you managed to be legitimately surprised about some stuff?
The internet was great. It wasn't really until today that I saw spoilers, and I didn't do a cleanse of social media. I'm like, okay, I know I'm not going to see it until I feel safe COVID wise. And I was working all the way up until Christmas.
Right. So you circled 2025 on your calendar, but then decided that New Year's Eve was okay.
But then it was fine. Yeah. No, because I was so careful about this. It was I made sure that there was a space between me, Cappy, and other people, and then people sat next to me anyway because I didn't know where their seats were, and I'm like, goes to show that no matter how well you plan.
Yeah.
But I felt like the internet did a really good job on this one. I feel like they really respected the material. Not to say that the fans are disrespectful, but there was definitely more of that poster that Marvel had put out with Spider-Man going like this. That was what was kind of commented of I saw the movie, I'm not going to say anything, and it was kind of just a tip of the hat, respect. And I think it's honestly because of we're going through a pandemic and people are more aware that other people have safety concerns. So it's less about like, I didn't get off work to see it on the weekend, or I wasn't with my kids. It's like, I don't feel comfortable going to see it in a theater, and this is the only place I can see it. So I think people were more, I think that's why people were more like considerate.
Yeah, before I saw the press screening that I went to, there was they had filmed something special that I assume went before all the early screenings, and whenever I hear Tom Holland with his British accent, I'm just like, no, you have to stop. It hurts my ears. Like, that's not what you're supposed to sound like. But it was him.
Uncharted, he's got an American accent too. I think we're just trying to like, he's American now. We're like trying to take him.
Yeah. What was that? You're saying it's the reverse of Benedict Cumberbatch for me?
With an American accent. I'm like, stop it. Doctor Strange should be British. I don't give a shit if he's not in the comics. Benedict Cumberbatch has a beautiful British accent, and his American accent is terrible.
Well, Peter, I feel like you've gotten into some trouble here. Yeah, no, it's terrible. I hate it.
Dr. House and Dr. Strange.
Yeah, exactly. Dr. House. Yeah. But and so anyway, there was this thing beforehand that they were just like, look, you're going to see the movie and you're going to understand why. Don't spoil the movie, whatever. And they go into the whole thing. And even Jamie Foxx got in and he's like, yeah, don't spoil it. And they're like, Jamie, you're a spoiler. But he wasn't really, because he was in the trailer. Yeah.
And the villains were I feel like they gave you the villains.
Yeah.
And then made the entire trailer about the villains because of what they were really trying to protect. And I got to give props to like Andrew Garfield, because he was so like hardcore, like I think there was one interview where he's like, can you just stop asking me? I'm not like, he was like,
that was I think that was on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And then so obviously it's to some degree a bit like they knew he would react that way. But yeah, I mean, he had to say like, yeah, no, I'm not in it. And it's like, of course he had to say that, I mean, what was he going to do? Like, yeah, it was so fun. Oh wait, oops, sorry. But so I'll go around and ask everybody, but you first, Kate, just overall feelings as the movie ended. How did you feel about that 2.5 hours you spent with Spidey's?
I thought that they did a really good job. I thought this was the best, and not just because there was all of them in there. I thought this was the best Spider-Man film that has been made, because I got to see why all of them were really good Spider-Men. I think the writers did a really good job at capturing the difference between Tobey Maguire's voice, Andrew Garfield's voice, and Tom Holland's voice, and why they were good in their own respective franchises, and then gave them all a piece of closure in a way. And it was also something about the difference between saving someone and healing someone, and like, what is the question like of, what does a hero do? They save people, but how do they save people? And it's the I really liked that question and how they went through it. So the sacrifice meant more at the end. That it was, can you give up being Spider-Man, or can everyone forget that I'm Spider-Man, versus can everyone forget that I'm Peter Parker because Spider-Man's more important? It was very, very close to the Captain America thing of like, the look of Captain America and the symbol of Captain America was almost more important than Steve Rogers, but one can't exist without the other.
Right.
So that was my thought. I really enjoyed it. The second that Aunt May said the great power, great responsibility line, I'm just like, fuck, she's gonna die. I was just like, no, don't take her.
Yeah, don't take her from us.
You just jinxed yourself, bro. You just jinxed yourself.
I know, you said it. Oh man. Yeah, that's like in a horror movie, like, I'll be right back. No, Jeff, big overall thoughts for you on No Way Home.
Overall thoughts, I feel very similar in the fact that I thought it was a great culmination of all three films, all three like generations of films, and then the same in that you got to see the differences in between the different Spider-Men, and that their stories still continued to this one, especially with Andrew Garfield and the fact that he was still dealing with Gwen Stacy's death and everything like that. I thought that was really cool, and just how he kind of redeemed himself a little bit at the end of this. I did have some issues with it. You kind of touched on the Aunt May stuff. We'll get into that. Obviously,
make sure we get into it. Yeah.
Obviously, there's We have an Into a Spider-Verse with only 3 Spider-Men. We teased a 4th Spider-Man for 3 films, but we still didn't get one.
Well, and we'll definitely talk about that. Will, this film for me was great for a lot of reasons, but because I feel vindicated on Andrew Garfield, who, if our other friend Jeff were here, Jeff DeRay, would point out that Andrew Garfield loves lasagna and hates Mondays. And I think that we miss having Jeff DeRay on the show for this conversation. But in his honor, I make sure to make his joke that I'm sure he'll find an opportunity to share with us at some point. Because, Will, I am probably the Amazing Spider-Man 2 apologist.
That's your Batman versus Superman for me.
You're one of many people who consider yourself an apologist for Batman versus Superman, which I don't think
it's good. I don't have to apologize.
No. I know, but you get characterized as that, and I think I think it gets painted with a broad brush for what's bad about it, but there's a lot of stuff that's great about that movie, and that So you had texted me after you saw it that it really is. It's my Batman versus Superman. It's like it's the one where and I know everything that's wrong with Amazing Spider-Man 2, and it's that they were trying to set up 3 movies that still to this point have not been made, and putting too many things into it. But his Spider-Man, I think, was great. I've said in previous earlier conversations, that I think his origin story played out very well in the first Amazing Spider-Man, and I prefer it to the Sam Raimi one as much as I enjoyed that movie. But and just from a performance standpoint, from a writing standpoint, Andrew Garfield had so much to work with in this movie. And he was really, it's sort of the perfect continuation of a story that I think we all assumed was done. So Will, I wanted to kind of set you up to talk. You can start with Andrew Garfield, but obviously talk about everything about the movie.
But there is a petition to do Amazing Spider-Man 3. Just wanted to let everybody know that.
I mean, is he gonna be Venom Spider-Man though? Because there's still opportunity.
Well, I mean, Amazing Spider-Man 3, with Andrew Garfield is what you're talking about. Yeah. Great. Yeah. I mean, and look, you could have a petition for Spider-Man with Nicholas Hammond, who was Spider-Man in the 1978 television series, and I would be there. If you want to bring back Japanese Spider-Man, I will also be there for that.
That's the one I wanted.
With the Transformers,
Spider-Zord.
Yeah.
And the motorcycle.
Yeah.
But somebody asked
this. Go ahead.
The 70s TV Spider-Man, if he was in it, and he was like, "No, nobody asked me."
And that's not him pulling.
I didn't get the call.
That's not him pulling Andrew Garfield. That's literally nobody
asked him. Yeah, and I was like, that would have been a funny, put an old man in it. There's no Stan Lee anymore. Put him in there.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that maybe this inspires what are those guys' names, Lord and Miller, to call him for Into the Spider-Verse 2, even if it's just for a cameo where he's on the television.
Yeah.
But anyway, big picture, Will, about No Way Home. I wanted to have you have this conversation. I was disappointed that obviously, things come up. It would have been fun for you to be a part of the conversation I had with our mutual pal Thomas Parham about all of this.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we're finding time
about it. But
I'm glad we're finding time to talk about it now. So your thoughts on No Way Home?
Well, first off, I think that you have now spent way more hours dedicated talking to this movie than you did to Amazing Spider-Man 2 many years ago in the Bladtcast. So if you added all these hours up, it could be the ultimate conversation episode.
It's
so
true.
I'm proud of you. Number one is I'm proud of you.
As Bladtcast historian, as a footnote, the previous record-setting episode for the Bladtcast was, I remember, it was Bladtcast episode 60. It was 2.5 hours, and we talked about Amazing Spider-Man 2, but that record has been obliterated by subsequent Spider-Man movies, and our record is now at 2 hours and 56 minutes. So
easily breakable.
Right this afternoon, easily. So.
I agree. I think it's up there. There's something good about parts of all the Spider-Man movies, and if you and going back and looking at them, it's hard to judge just because of how much we've grown and changed in terms of these universes. Since, like, if you watch 2002 Spider-Man now, you'd be like, none of this makes any sense, and it's super corny. But when it first came out, I was like, there never needs to be another movie ever again. This movie's fucking amazing. And then the second one was even better, and it was like, to see all of that kind of come into one single universe where they were sort of all teamed up, like working together for a second, swinging. I genuinely like thought to myself, like, if you asked 13 or 14-year-old me in 2002, like, can you imagine watching this movie 20 years from now? I'd have been like, that's fucking never going to happen. And like, just to know that this is the kind of movies that comic book fans have now is like, I never could have imagined. It was exciting to see Venom in the animated Spider-Man cartoon. I thought that was going to be the greatest Spider-Man story ever. And so, like, just the sense of wonder and like awe about being able to have something like this is really special. And I think storytelling wise, it's up there for sure in the top. I'd say top 3. I think Spider-Man 2, Into the Spider-Verse, and then this are probably like 3.
I mean, those are up until this movie, I've always said that Spider-Man 2 is my favorite Spider-Man movie and possibly my favorite superhero film. It go back and forth between that and the second X-Men movie. But this has what I love about Spider-Man 2, which is Alfred Molina's Doc Ock. So this takes that and somehow makes the character even more interesting, and and Willem Dafoe taking his, cartoony, scenery chewing interpretation of the Green Goblin and just adding like multiple layers to it. There's always the talk about, in Star Trek, Mr. Spock plays like 3D, 3-level chess. This is like 5th dimension level stuff, what he does as Norman Osborn, but then also alternating back and forth with the Goblin, which, by the way, that is a very tough thing to do and pull off with the, oh no, I'm scared, but now I'm evil. Like, to that turn is not easy to pull off. And I feel like you're about to jump in, Kate.
Well, there's an aspect of this which is very interesting where they cast this so good years ago. They got like the best of the best to do what they do. And I know that Alfred Molina was more freed up to be more into the character because of the technology that is now available to him. He was able to be on a rig and move around and not be kind of tied down by, where the original arms were puppets. And now they're not. Now they're digital because the digital world has caught up to a real life puppet. So he was just on a rig. So he was able to kind of do more with his body because he wasn't bogged down by puppets. So I'm wondering if a similar thing happened to Willem Dafoe and all of these other actors that were really great when they were cast. I mean, they were some of the best casting choices in a superhero movie. And I think it surprised everyone and put superhero movies kind of on a forefront to get an actor like Willem Dafoe in the first Spider-Man. It's like, we're taking this seriously. This is a good story. We've got some great talent. And this is not a kid's movie. This is for adults. This is real. And this is a good story. And we're dealing with really interesting themes. And I think that's why the first Spider-Man really kicked off like, oh, these superhero movies aren't just comic movies. They're successful. They're good stories.
Yeah, and we've brought up previously, but it's always worth mentioning that Willem Dafoe insisted on doing some of his own stunts in this movie, which at his age is, crazy, but consistent with what we think of him. Jamie Foxx said that he wouldn't be in the movie if he had to be blue. And man, what a reinvention of a character that
I was going to say, I appreciated their
better.
retcon of that.
Yeah. I think that was essential. And I think that the origin of his character, Max, was fine. It was once he became Electro that it was like, ooh, I mean, it's in a way, it's very comparable, I think, for Wonder Woman 1984, where I'm like, no, Kristen Wiig's doing it. Great. It's working. Uh-oh. It does not work anymore. It's right. Sort of that mistake. And it's kind of what I'm talking about Willem Dafoe, the alternating between the before and after. Not everybody can pull it off, but you're right. When you bring actors of this caliber, 20 years ago, really, and having them revisit it. I mean, Thomas Hayden Church is not huge in this movie, but I mean, when he was chosen to play Sandman, I mean, it was definitely at the height. It was the height of his moment. It was like right after Sideways,
Yeah.
And shout out to Topher Grace. Sorry that he wasn't able to make it into the movie, but I love him in everything except Spider-Man 3. I've never seen him in anything except that I didn't like him.
But they mentioned it.
Yes, they definitely mentioned it.
They did mention
give a
it.
shout out.
And arguably, like, I think what also helped that at least the first transition into, because they didn't really transition from Norman Osborn to Green Goblin too many times. And when they did, it was very, very pointed. Like he only transformed once and he transformed back once. Yeah. So, and I think what helped that transition was the camera work and the body camera work, especially because they attached a body camera to Tom Holland to do the kind of weird displacement effect on when he did the Spidey senses. And then it was everything became a little bit more like, and I like that the body camera is being used a little bit more. It's like a weird Spike Lee effect. Like they did it in Witcher season 2 a lot, but I like that it's very unsettling when the actor is moving and the camera's very close and like you're not quite sure what's happening in the background. I think it was a really good way to use that effect to make that transition a little less harsh so that the actor didn't have to do all the heavy lifting. The camera was helping too.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's another great advantage of the technology, coming so much further. And but to your point, I'm glad it doesn't have like a Stefan Urkel quality where it's like he's going back and forth too easily, or for a generation before. When in Charles in Charge, he would change to Chaz, and everybody would just take a turn hitting him on the head. To change personalities obviously is not something to do so lightly. And yes, I'm going to make the hot take that No Way Home has a more deft touch than Family Matters or Charles in Charge, and I will die on that hill. All right. You ready to fight me on it? Come on.
You heard it here first, guys.
Yeah, you definitely heard it here first. Not last, but first. Jeff, you brought up some I don't know, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I don't want to say that they're problems, but sort of issues with the film. So let's start off with what I think is a very funny exchange, but it's at least a nod to the fact that Miles Morales is not in this movie. Is Jamie Foxx saying to Andrew Garfield, "It's like, yeah, I always thought you'd be black," and just his response being, "Yeah, I'm sorry."
Oh yeah, it was great. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed the whole interaction. I thought it was levity to like the whole scene, and kind of just a nod like, okay, he's not going to be in this film, but like we know that people want it. We know that that's a thing. And then also Tom Holland has been talking about how there needs to be other representation and stuff for our other Spider-Man as well. So I was like, we're teasing it. I'm cool with it. With that being said, it's 3 films in. I would have loved for more. So that was my only nod. But that by no means did that take away from any part of the film. I still enjoyed it for every part of it. I still enjoyed it for all the nostalgia parts, and hopefully now that our Tom Holland's going to be in college, we need a young Miles in high school to handle the street level stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
technically not.
What's that?
Technically not.
What, that he's technically not in college yet?
No.
Well, we don't know what he's going to do. Like, he might not actually go. He's not going to go to MIT.
There was a GED book in the box at the apartment, so he's going to self-school. He has to finish high school, which I really like that they're like, even though he's Spider-Man and he's off the records and he doesn't have to go to school, kids, you should go to school.
Then they can go with the comic book accurate, which always was baffling that this kid was brilliant, but he goes to Empire State University. I mean, if you're going to make up a fake college, give it a better name than that. I feel like Stan had that on a chalkboard. I remember when I invented Empire State University, and I thought that Peter Parker should go. Scott Summers should go, not Reed Richards. He's too old. Anyway, what were you going to say, Jeff?
I was gonna this is kind of a little off topic, but who else is going to MIT, right? At the same time.
I lost you for a second. You're saying someone went to MIT at the same time?
I said, do you know who else is going to MIT at the same time as MJ and Ned?
No.
Is Riri Williams is supposed to be at MIT at the same exact time. So hopefully there's some interactions there.
With
we'll see.
With Ironheart.
With Ironheart.
Yeah.
Damn. So you brought up Aunt May, and I'm kind of wondering, did you feel like she shouldn't have died, or do you feel like it was important for this Peter that's what happens to him? Because I've had the conversation with a few people already. We never knew for sure that there was an Uncle Ben in the Tom Holland Spider-Man story.
I got confused by that.
Yeah, there may not have been.
That speech had already happened.
I don't think there was.
Yeah,
I don't think it was ever mentioned.
Yeah.
I just figured he was like, oh, he's dead. He already told him that. That's why he becomes Spider-Man. Now he's Spider-Man. Like, we just, it was a Batman story without the origin.
Right. And that you're never going to get a Batman story where you don't
People
see
love to see the Waynes get murdered. Everybody
the Waynes always have to get murdered.
Always murdered, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, look, she dropped a pearl necklace again. But in any case, yeah. So it's almost like he needed that because he didn't have the Uncle Ben moment. Yeah. But when we first saw him, in Civil War and then in his own movie, just the impression was, the Uncle Ben stuff, of course, happened. But they've done it twice. And at that point, the previous, 15 years, they were like, let's not tell it again. But maybe there is no Uncle Ben. What were you going to say, Kate?
No, I actually don't think so, because just how he behaved himself, like he wasn't as haunted as the other two.
Yeah.
So just in the behavior, I mean, I think the big loss was Stark. Honestly, I think Stark was his version of Uncle Ben, and then losing a member of his family, I think I'm going to say this as kindly as I can, got her out of the way for the sacrifice at the end of everyone forgetting him. Because it's like, wait, how come his aunt can't remember? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I think got the family out of the way.
I think from a story standpoint, you can understand him giving up MJ and look, especially Ned. But if Aunt May still, I love Ned.
He's gonna become the Hobgoblin. You start shitting on him now, so it motivates his anger to become
exactly.
I can't. I can't wait until he's
too nice right now. We got to be mean to him.
He doesn't know Tom is now, so like he has no reason to be happy about Spider-Man. Spider-Man's gonna do something to piss Ned off. It's a wrap. It's the Hobgoblin. But getting back on Aunt May, it was nothing that overarching, like, it's fine. I'm cool with her giving the speech. It was literally the beats that happened and that made the speech happen. So if you remember, they were both in the wherever they're fighting, wherever the Goblin and Spider-Man are fighting. And then
outside of Happy's bachelor pad.
But once they get to the bottom floor, Aunt May is there as well. And then he like throws a bomb at him. And I know this is great. This is a great description of how the film went. But either way, we're gonna just bear with me. He just throws the bomb, and then both Tom and Aunt May, both Spider-Man and Aunt May, are down. Aunt May gets up first. She's cool. Everything's fine. She wakes up Spider-Man and like, hey, are you okay? Talks about it, gives him the whole speech. And then you're like, you know what? I'm actually really hurt. I just didn't fall for it. Like, it just didn't work for me. How she got up first. How like, it just seemed like he was more hurt than she was at first. That's what I was like, okay, she just needed to do the speech and then she could die again. Like, I was like, they could have just did it earlier or something.
Yeah.
Jeff, has anyone ever characterized you as dead inside, or am I the first one to put that out there?
I mean, here first, folks.
Just on a Bladtcast. So
yeah. No, I do understand. I mean, I think that you can justify and make excuses for it, but look, it didn't connect with you, and I mean, I think that there was just the shock as an audience member before she says, with great power comes great responsibility, where you're like, but then I think it was just
intentional writer's misdirection, so that way you didn't know what was going to happen until she said the words. Because if she's laying there on the ground, you're like, fuck, she's dead, she's gonna die, and then she'd say, you're like, yeah, she's gonna die. So for her to get up, say it, like, I don't know if they really care about the logic. They're like, we just don't want the audience to think she's going to die until she says those words. And then you're like, Oh no, that's the kiss of death.
That's the kiss of death.
Yeah.
The way I and maybe this is just me coming from a different perspective. Totally get where you're coming from, because like the second the words came out and some of the dialogue a little bit between them was a little like clocky, and that's what hit me a little bit. But the actions that you're talking about, I feel like from my perspective, there's an aspect of when you are a caretaker to someone, and also we just saw like Tom Holland go through like 4 flights of just pure floor, where he just like boom, and he's like, I'm like, I don't know if I could get up after that, even with the Spidey powers. It's like he just got the crap kicked out of him.
Never say never. You haven't been there yet.
I haven't been there yet.
You could be you. Could be you'll be the one.
Kate's only fallen through 2 floors, so
you know that I know
of.
Yeah. But there's an aspect of what my brain said was, it's like you have to put on the kid's mask on the airplane before you put on your own. It's like there's an aspect of when you're the mother figure to someone of like, I can wait for a hot second. Is my kid okay?
And that's how as a parent, I need to point out, you always put on your mask first, not your kid's mask.
I've been on a lot of planes
because you put on your mask, because
and then you can help other people,
because then you're able to help your kids, assuming you have.
Shows how much I've been flying in the past 2 years.
Yeah. Not like Jet Set Jeff over there. You know,
thank God we're not doing this. Thank God we're not doing this live, because I would have been like, it's like, Kaitlin, are you okay? But I feel like that the mothering aspect of like she was checking on her kid first, even if the metaphor was bad.
No, but it's true. And then, look, there's also the, you know, with the severity of the moment and, you know, just the adrenaline, I don't think she realized how serious it was, or Siri. But, you know, and yeah, I mean, I think that it is an important moment because it is that motivating factor, but it also sets up some truly great interactions with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. And I talked earlier about this idea, you know, just the fact that, like, you know, Tobey Maguire stops him from murdering Norman Osborn. Like, he's just that look that he has. And there's those times where they look, the look sort of between each other where they don't have to say anything. And I love that Andrew Garfield.
Dialogue.
And I love that Andrew Garfield is the one to say, I love you guys, you know, and it's, and, you know, just his Spider-Man's sort of redemption. I've mentioned it in the previous conversations I've had on the channel. But the moment when he saves MJ, and so maybe I'm a little dead inside because I didn't shed a tear for Aunt May. It was emotional, but when he saves her, I'm like, oh, well, that's getting to me. But it's then he says, "Are you okay?" Okay, that's starting to get to me. And she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Oh, motherfucker, Andrew Garfield, look what you did."
The thing for him too.
And both times I saw it, I cried when that happened.
Me too.
I didn't expect him to steal the show overall as much as he did for me, to the point where when it was over, I was like, I kind of would rather have an Andrew Garfield Spider-Man after this and take a pause on the other ones just because I like him so much. Yeah. But and it goes to show that, like, he's so, I don't give a shit. He's already been in like 7 of these movies. Good for him. Like, let's go back to the guy who's
Tom Holland has played Spider-Man in 10 movies.
There you go.
Avengers and everything.
He said, wow, let's open it up a little bit. Wow. But I just was like, man, he's and as an actor, between this, Tick, Tick, Boom, and also The Eyes of Tammy Faye, like, just a really wonderful year. And he lost his mom, and I'd seen that thing on like one of the talk shows, and when I saw that scene, I was like, oh, he's just living. This is like such an honest moment for him as a performer about grief and about all these other things, that being a theme of it, and that being something that just happened to him in his personal life. It doesn't mean that, like, oh, good, I'm so glad that this person's hurting and we get to watch their hurt, but it obviously brings such a layer of like intimacy and something that, like, when you share that as an artist, it's like such a gift, as one would say. And I was like, oh, poor guy, but it's real.
Look, I'm just glad that he's finally had, you know, a really good year, because it was a little bit of a downward spiral ever since Lex Luthor stole Facebook from him. You know, I mean, if you think back, the last decade or so is basically when that first happened.
About that.
Yeah. You forgot that Lex Luthor stole Facebook from him?
Well, and that the two Lone Rangers were desperate to try to make it their own, and everyone was like, "Your movie sucked. Shut the fuck up." Yeah,
Forgot about the Lone Rangers also in that movie.
Boy, if you want to get me worked up.
And I do like how they mentioned, like, you fought aliens, you fought this. I just fought like lame people.
I got in a rhino.
That's a tease.
The shout out to Paul
So
Giamatti
good.
is the rhino. the
But I'm
rhino,
telling
which
you,
That's probably my favorite scene in the whole movie was when they're all waiting. And
Yeah,
all three of them are on this, like,
it's a variation on the the sort of the war stories in Jaws, and you've seen it in some other movies, and it's like, look,
I would
logically,
love Maguire being like, when I fought the Green Goblin and those black eyes,
he chomped down
venom was chumming up the water, and the baby was screaming. And, yeah,
3 Spider-Man go in, 1 Spider-Man come out.
And I love that that Tom Holland has asked the question that I was asking in the way that I asked it. It's like, does it come out of the webs come out of other parts?
Yeah. I think that some of us maybe never actually said it out loud, but we'd all been wondering about it for almost 20 years.
I was just so grateful that it wasn't me.
I'm gushing a lot about Andrew Garfield in this movie, but I think that Tobey Maguire, look, we haven't seen him in a while. It's not that he doesn't work anymore, but he doesn't do as much as he did. And to see him for the first time in a while, for me personally, and he's older. They weren't pretending that this is still, even college age Peter Parker. This is Peter Parker who is, we know what the Andrew Garfield iteration had seen and what he was trying to deal with, and he tells us about it. It's wide open for what Tobey Maguire's character went through, his version of Peter Parker. I mean,
he's still got an MJ. He's still
got exactly. No Kirsten Dunst in this movie. No Emma Stone in this movie, but whatever. We got our Spideys. That's what we really needed. And I don't know. I mean, I think just to get to see him again, and it's like, I don't know. I think a lot of people were excited for Tobey Maguire because, look, he was the first big screen Spider-Man, and you're absolutely right. That movie was not perfect, but for me, seeing a Marvel movie on the big screen, and it was that level of like, look, that they spent some money on special effects, they put a good cast together.
I know that like Fox's 2000 X-Men is really like the first big stepping stone in where we are now, but even that, watching it, I was like, okay, it's clear they didn't have a lot of money. Even as a kid, I was like, all right, this Empire, the Statue of Liberty thing is like a little whatever.
The big fight scene happens in the gift shop of the Statue of Liberty, not outside, even at the base of the Statue of Liberty. Yeah,
right.
So
when Spider-Man came out,
Statue of Liberty comes up again.
So much bigger.
Yeah. Sorry, you guys are both talking at the same time. So will you finish, and then I'll toss.
I was just gonna say that the scope of Spider-Man just 2 years later was like, it just. 10 times as much as what X-Men felt like. Yeah. And then X2 obviously was fucking awesome. So it was like, okay, now we're
X2 and Spider-Man 2 are still up there for me. And I know that's blasphemy for MCU stans out there, but the MCU movies are not my Mount Rushmore. I as much as I love so many of them.
My favorite scene in X2 is when Brian Cox tells all the characters to fuck off.
Fuck off. Yeah.
That
pretty
is
much
true.
Yeah. By the way, Brian Cox, also a very serviceable Hannibal Lecter in the first version of Manhunter is what it was called.
Yeah,
it's a completely different take than Anthony Hopkins. But in any case, we're not here to talk about that. I'm sorry. What were you going to say before, Kate?
I don't remember. But the Statue of Liberty adjustments, and I do like how they added in the first scene of Spider-Man, they actually go past the Rogers the musical poster, the banner.
That's very nice.
So that was nice. But there was also the aspect of, and I've talked about this before, especially with you, Christian, a weird fetishization of Captain America that's been happening. In the Marvel universe, and then every time it is fetishized, they are tearing them back down. Like they put the thing up,
literally tearing the shield off of the Statue of Liberty.
and it falls, and it's like and adding it to what we think of as like, this is what it means to be an American. And then it's like, no, because that's the covering of what that person actually stood for. But I do like how when that the final fight did take place on the underside of the shield. I thought that was like, I don't know if it was symbolic on purpose, but I just took it. Or
I mean, it probably like, cool. Stuff like that. I don't think happens by accident, you know.
But I love that it took place there. And then when he lifted up the Green Goblin's, I don't know what you would call it. Actually,
the glider that he flies.
Glider? Yeah. And the way he lifted it up, it reminded me of that episode in Falcon Winter Soldier when U.S. agent starts like beating the guy that destroyed his whole, that took away his world in a way.
When he uses the symbol of truth, justice, in the American way, Superman doesn't use that anymore. So I think the U.S. agent could use it for a moment. But no, when he takes the symbol of freedom and literally bludgeons someone to death.
Yeah, but it was like, I'm going to bludgeon you with the thing of yours, but it was on Captain America's shield, and it was like someone stopping him.
And
it was silent, and it was that whole sequence for me was very, very powerful, and it took like, no one stopped U.S. agent from doing that, and no one stops like that rage can be countered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean it gets explored more in comics, but you have moments where your characters would like to have been able to stop. I mean, when you really delve into somebody like Wolverine, who can have like a 100-person body count in a single issue, there are definitely times where it's like, I wish that there was somebody to. And for that character, a lot of times it would be like a Kitty Pryde or a Jubilee or somebody that's like, what are you doing? And for Tom Holland Peter Parker, it was Tobey Maguire Peter Parker. And I love the ESPN update. What could possibly be the update right now? But it's fine. I just thought it was funny. But the time spent with the 3 Spider-Men, it definitely slowed the movie down in a way that is probably not practical for the action on the screen, but I'm fine if they had done 15 more minutes of it.
I think you needed it.
It's my favorite stuff in the movie for sure, is them interacting together. And, Tom Holland playing J. Jonah Jameson, and using him to get the villains to all come there.
I have a thing about, and I know it's such a minor issue, but I have a thing about characters doing like obvious, easy movie science scenes where they like synthesize a chemical and they like make a reverse geothermal coupler and they like, put the last finishing touches on the chaos.
Well, in Doctor Who parlance, it's reverse the polarity.
That's right. Yeah. That's so when they're kind of all just reverse the polarity, like doing their science, I'm like, why don't you guys just go for coffee? Like, skip to the part where you have the science.
MJ could have gotten you a discount at that donut shop.
They have to show that everybody is still a nerd. Don't worry. Right. Everybody was in there. It was a nerd in their own different way. We all know our sciences. Yeah. Remember Peter Parker? It was me. It was me. So they had to do that.
Yeah,
but no.
I know Light was there. I was like, so corny.
Right. Well, I agree. Yeah, I think that there's obviously, so much fun to be had in the movie. Obviously, they deal with some of the very serious emotions about being even a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I mean, it's, we're talking about some darker characters like U.S. Agent or Wolverine, but it's even being Spider-Man. I mean, look, so much goes with that. And it's always the tragedy of Peter Parker is, oh, yeah, my uncle died literally because I'm an asshole, because I couldn't be bothered. I tried to save my girlfriend and I killed her by snapping her neck, which I don't know that they.
To be fair,
to be fair, it was an accident.
Let the guy go who killed Uncle Ben. Tried to save Gwen. Accidentally.
Oh yeah, but they're both on him, and it's just like for a fun-loving, freewheeling character, there's so much. Just so much angst in him.
I'm just saying it'll help Peter Parker's trauma if you don't tell him. Let him know that it wasn't. He tried his best. Okay, when it comes to Gwen,
he gave it the old college try.
His therapist, he could use that wording.
Yeah, he gave it the old Empire State University try.
That's right.
I was like, there you go. Take it.
If there was a bell on Marvel Movie News, we'd ring it.
The other interesting.
There's always a bell, Will.
Love it.
Yes.
Here's my question about the mid-credit sequence, and this is just me being a little nitpicky, and I totally acknowledge that.
Oh, okay.
The Venom coming in, enjoyed immensely. Also, the cameo of Daredevil in the beginning. That was awesome.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about that. Yeah.
Oh,
we will. But doesn't him disappearing into his own world, having been in Mexico and not in New York, slightly take away from the importance of getting everybody in one's place? Because if they just did the fucking box thing, the stupid box thing, and just like did it really fast, because apparently that box thing was like already ready because it's a freaking artifact, and then just press the button. Like I get the argument that it's for like damage control, but how much like do you, and then there was no way to track like, oh yeah, you've got them all. It's like Pokemon, and now we get to send them all back. It's like, we don't know how many have gone through the freaking loop thing. Like, was he just like go off and like don't cause any problems? But I feel like by sending people to do a battle, that's causing problems.
Right. Well,
as opposed to just like, let's focus on the box thing and then press the button and then send everybody back, because we'll all get them back in one go.
Yeah, the end credit scene in Venom, where he ends up in the MCU, just set up so much potential. And then by the time this movie ended, I legitimately forgotten about it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I was really excited that we were going to get Venom interacting with the, Spider-Man. And, does this mean that the Topher Grace Venom is from the same collective, even though it's a different, there's so many questions that were had, and they were like, nah, don't worry about it. He's just going to leave some goo behind. Peace out. And I'm like, oh, that's a bit of a letdown. Like, why did you bring that in at all? And I guess
they still want to do a proper Eddie Brock Venom Spider-Man story.
They do.
Right. Yeah. They do want to do.
But there's also an aspect of, did it just destroy the second act of this movie by taking like a little bit of the logic away?
Yeah. Of this movie or of
No Way Home? No Way Home.
I was gonna say, because it just made Venom even less relevant, and that's pretty hard to do. Because
Jeff was not.
I watched the Carnage movie, and it was really one of the worst movies ever. It doesn't.
Thank you.
It's so bad.
Yeah, it ended, and I was like, of No Way Home, because it's like, if we had to collect them and then send them home, but we could just send them home from wherever they were. We just have to focus on getting the box together and, just focus on our energy on this thing.
I guess I wasn't.
Feel like that would have been
that
better.
much of attention. I was like,
just wait.
Why is he there? And then he left, and I was like, oh, it's for more money and more movies. That's always the motivation.
Well, we're only a few weeks away from Morbius, so they might be able to.
Which has the
pumped
the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man on a poster, right?
The suit, but it also has.
He makes a Venom joke.
Yeah, but it also
he does make a Venom joke.
It has Michael Keaton in it. The trailer. That's not really a spoiler.
Is he playing Batman from the Tim Burton Batman in this movie?
Who knows?
No, but he is his Batman in the Flash.
That I know.
No, oddly enough, let me just explain it to everybody.
You couldn't put Miles Morales in this movie? That's what you're telling me? That you could do all this other stuff?
In Morbius,
believe it.
In Morbius, Michael Keaton plays the Tim Burton Batman. In Flashpoint, he actually plays the Mr. Mom character. So I don't think everybody knew that. Yeah.
That's what I
it's going to work
on the same track.
Yeah,
and the multiplicity version of himself. Yeah.
We're going to go from the multiverse to the multiplicity verse. It's going to be
the multi-Keaton. That's what we're doing.
The multi-Keaton.
We're
living the multi-Keaton right now.
It's like 6 degrees from Michael Keaton.
So as we start to wind down our spider talk here, I wanted to kind of get each of your thoughts as to what this might mean for going forward. The ending is that he's still Spider-Man. Peter Parker is still Spider-Man. People do know Spider-Man. They just don't know he's Peter Parker. So he can show up and talk to the Avengers with his suit on, and they know who he is. So, it's not going to necessarily be that different. I guess there's, this not entirely confirmed that they're going to make another trilogy with Tom Holland, but I don't think anybody expects there to not be more Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. What do you think we will get with the character, and what would you hope to see apart from just doing another Andrew Garfield movie, but getting to another Tom Holland Spider-Man? What do you think we will get, and what do you hope to see where he goes from here?
It's hard because as soon as you open up the multiverse, it's like, why tell a story that doesn't have some multiversal component to it? And it's like to just imagine that they're going to go back and now just do like a regular Spider-Man movie with Venom the proper way. Like, I wouldn't hate that, but the stakes feel so much lower when it's like not intergalactic. And so, like, this is, I feel like 10 years from now, why this whole thing's just going to collapse. But like, I, I genuinely don't know. I hope. I don't love a give up on the thing, have to get the thing back. Like, that's the worst part of Spider-Man 2, where he's like, I'm not Spider-Man anymore. And then of course he's gonna fucking be Spider-Man again. Like, now we gotta do a whole movie of that.
Also the worst part of Superman 2, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to be Superman
we did get the
anymore.
cellophane S. If it weren't for that, we wouldn't have gotten the cellophane S. So I do think we're gonna get that awkward. It's easy for them to also use this as a reason if some people's paychecks are they want too much money. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Zendaya's too busy and she's like, this is how much money I want. And they're like, we'll do Gwen Stacy in this universe or something stupid.
Or Black Cat, which they've set up before. There's this is a fine time for Peter to find somebody else. It's
why I want a Tom Holland break. I would love to just hit the pause button. Like, there's so much of that now in the MCU that's nuts that, like, I would rather, well, the Into the Spider-Verse, what's it called? Beyond the Spider-Verse?
Into the Spider-Verse.
Into the Spider-Verse. That'll be cool. I mean, I think the animated element of everything is fun, but I don't know. I wish there was some crossover between those, but I guess.
Well,
who knows?
I mean,
I'm not as well versed in these things, so.
You're not as well Spider-Versed. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I love Spider-Man. I just, storytelling wise, I do think we're sort of at the peak of now doing a loop and kind of going in circles with some of this stuff where it's like, cool, the multiverse is cool. Now every story is going to be a multiverse story and everything's going to be nuts. That, like, we have the MCU specifically has reached proper comic book difficult territory where everything is madness always now. Like, there's never not, like we've seen.
The MCU is at the point where every movie is pre-bagged with a hologram cover and a collectible card. And it's just like, oh, you want to open the comic? Well, you're gonna have to buy another one because you got to save this one because it's gonna be worth $1 million, which of course it's worth like the same $250 you paid for it. Jeff, going forward with Spider-Man on the big screen, animated, live action, all of it, what do you hope we see next, and where do you kind of think it's going, even if it's not necessarily what you want?
If we do see Tom Holland again with the Avengers, I think it'll be kind of quick. Okay, we don't know who you are. We need to know who you are. Give me your name. So, like, they'll have some type of comedic relief of them needing to know who he is, and I think that'll be kind of past, because there's no way they're gonna trust a Spider-Man and not know who the person behind the mask is, because every other superhero, we know who they are, and their teammates know who they are. There's not that I can think of anyone who they don't know.
No, let me just interject. That's a very MCU convention of the MCU. In the comics, one of what I know is one of Will's favorite iterations of Spider-Man is he didn't even want the Fantastic Four to know his secret identity. So he put a bag on his head when he got rid of the symbiote, and Reed Richards took care of it forever. And then in less than a year, it broke out and became Venom. Thanks, Reed. He like swings home wearing an old Fantastic Four uniform and a bag on his head. So like the idea of the secret identity is really non-existent in the MCU, and it has always been a big part of Peter Parker and Spider-Man that we've had this reset and brought it back. But you're right that he's the only one really that any one of these characters. I mean, so many of them don't even wear a mask. I mean, plenty do, but but to finish your thought, I'm sorry, Jeff.
No, I just think that, like, if we're gonna see him, it's gonna be a quick fix in the fact that the team is gonna know who he is. But I could see us taking a break from Spider-Man in the fact that a lot of the other stories are gonna be kind of setting up the world around who our big bad is, and we don't really need a Spider-Man in this world. They're going to be focusing on the young Avengers and forming the kids, and then also forming the next big bad and like Kang the Conqueror or Doom or whoever that may be. So I think they have a lot of room and opportunity to form those young kids. But also, if Miles is not in those or if Miles is supposed to be part of those young kids, how is he going to be introduced? Is he going to be introduced in a movie that's not Spider-Man? That would be pretty wild. But I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously, Kevin Feige, must have. He's got. I always use the example of the meme from "It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia" with Charlie Day, with all the different strings trying to connect everything, and he's got all the different properties, and it all goes back to it. I'm sure he's got a picture of where you've got Kate Bishop, Yelena, the Black Widow, and Riri as Ironheart, and Miles Morales. They're all standing there, and those are your young Avengers. I'm leaving out other characters, I'm sure, but just the younger version.
Wanda's kid.
The younger, cheaper.
Wiccan and Speed.
Yep.
The younger, cheaper. Oh yeah, and Hulkling, anything like that. The younger, cheaper versions of all of the Avengers. Is somebody else with Thor's hammer. All that stuff can happen. I think that Miles Morales existing as a Frog Thor. Please, Frog Thor. A whole movie of Frog Thor is what I've been waiting for, and it would be better than Thor 2: The Dark World. I mean, let's be honest, but. So I think that
we would be Loki
we have
to get
the animated Miles Morales.
Thank you.
That's for you.
You got a bell.
Loki to get it. So but I agree, Jeff. I would like to see all of that, and having the animated Miles. Those are his movies, even though there's a bunch of Peter Parkers in them. But I mean, we've already set it up. For we had it's the first one had what Donald Glover is like his uncle, right? As Miles' uncle. So we've had the reference to the character. So
it would be cool if in the new Spider-Verse he goes into the real world. Like, why not?
Yeah, that would be sick.
That'd be great.
Because then you really don't have
Sony
to
might do it.
You don't have to. You don't have to have like an introduction in the Spider-Man film because he already has his own introduction. You kind of already know his backstory, and then there's like live iterations of each of those characters. That'd be kind of dope.
Look, it worked when Rocky and Bullwinkle came out to the real world in the film version with Robert De Niro. So I don't see why.
And taking Michael Jordan into the Looney Tunes in the reverse of that also worked.
Yeah.
So Space Jam was really the first multiverse movie. We're very
Space Jam was the first.
That's the first Spider-Verse, essentially. Yeah.
The first verse.
The first verse.
By the way, Jeff, one of our AfterBuzz friends, Ryan Nilsson, posted. He commented on a couple people had listed their worst movies of 2021, and some of them were great movies. And what he commented was like, "Wow, you guys must have really loved Space Jam because it wasn't on either of these lists." And it's like I think it's easy. It's like I watched Space Jam with my kids, by the way, on HBO Max the way it was intended. But and the fact that I think people blocked it from their memories. I think that Doctor Strange did something that made us forget Space Jam
bad?
too.
I enjoyed it.
So
I liked it.
It's a Warner Brothers verse. Like literally, if you think of like a marketer, like if a marketer, the head of marketing just made the film, they're like, okay, who do we have? What IPs do we have? Let's just flush the
like
viewers.
The Clockwork Orange guys were in the trailer.
Yes.
Yeah.
I promise you, like if they could go past Hogwarts, you're seeing Harry Potter. Like it's wild. Things that I didn't even realize was an IP. I was like, so that's part of it.
The same for me, by the way. I'm like, Warner Brothers owns that, don't they? Okay, yeah.
It was wild, but like it was fun and cool. It was for little kids, but they threw everything in the kitchen sink in that film.
But also to see that movie, you realize that LeBron James really is Michael Jordan. But by that I mean Michael Jordan, the baseball player. So that was the of acting skills that LeBron brought to the movie. It hurt to watch him.
The Toon verse is making you choppy, Christian. I want to hear your criticism.
Home. Kate, the future of Spidey on the big screen.
You're being a little choppy, babe. Uh-oh.
Oh no.
Oh no. Are we losing him?
I believe he was asking about the future. Oh.
Yeah, Kate, he was tossing to you.
Oh, cool.
But Kate. Oh. Kate, I want to give you a chance to. The other guys are in the way. The guys out. I'm just not streaming them right now because we're winding down, and I want to give you the opportunity to.
Okay. Sorry, you were very choppy for a second, my dear.
For where all of this is going, and the same question I had was, and it was because I was throwing way too much shade at Space Jam 2, and I get it. I deserved that.
No, you were a little choppy, my love. Actually, you still are.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of a lag.
Well,
I'm still not getting you, babe.
So the question is really, where do you see it go, Spidey?
I think that Spider-Man is going to be like almost like Batman, like he's going to come in super randomly in other people's universes and then like Irish goodbye. So I think he's going to maintain the mystery because there's so many other, like we have a whole Cap Falcon thing that's happening that doesn't have anything to do with the multiverse. It's going to be more on that like thriller conspiracy theory mentality. And I think that he's going to like come and do something and then bounce. And I think he's going to be that character that comes in, does something and then bounces.
So it's like the moment in Family Guy.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just swings by, saves them. Everybody gets one.
Everybody, yeah. And honestly, like I think they're gonna do that for a few films so that they can they don't really have to have Tom Holland in it at this point. Like Tom can do his own thing for a little bit, and they're just gonna put Spider-Man in places of like we haven't forgotten, we're maintaining this mystery, and that's gonna be like the main mystery of the MCU. And honestly, I think that if they do it that way, when it gets crazy with the multiverse, we're going to have something to hold on to for the future. And maybe when they fix the multiverse, it's going to fix the rift it's going to fix the rift of that spell created, because the only reason everyone forgot him is because the multiverse was going to explode. So I think that Kang the Conqueror is where we're going to see Spider-Man again. It's going to be that's going to be the one that Tom Holland comes back in. And you know, we're gonna get a little like Spidey cameo here and there, and then Tom Holland's gonna come back when Kang the Conqueror when he's really needed. But I think the difference between Spider-Man, what's happening?
It's a Space Jam update.
It's gonna be great. Mm-hmm. I think that's how they're going to utilize this new version of Spider-Man to keep that mystery going. While we focus on the other characters for a little bit and introduce some new ones. Like, even if the Young Avengers get into a little bit of trouble and you have like and it's like, who would that? We don't know. Okay, we're going to keep doing our own thing. It's like a nice little, like, someone's watching you sort of mentality.
That's how they're going to get everybody to go see the Marvel movies they don't really care about. They're like, but Spider-Man's in it for a little bit. Everyone's going to be like, fuck, I got to go now. Shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is this the one where he's going to come back? Is this the one where is he going to, yeah.
Well, but I do think that Sony will continue to look for billion-dollar Spider-Man movies, but I like this idea that, he'll be sort of another comparison is like the Wolf in Pulp Fiction, Harvey Keitel's character. He comes in and fixes stuff. But yeah, to Will's point, yeah, he's going to have to show up in like the Nova movie, just like he was in the Nova comic book series to try and help sell a few more issues. That is one of those characters.
But I also like, because they did this in spoiler alert, Hawkeye and Black Widow, because Yelena's in Hawkeye. They're definitely willing to cross over their TV show world and their and they started obviously with WandaVision too, but it wasn't as clear until that moment for me. I think the Ironheart series is going to have MJ and Ned, and it would be nice to get them not being Spider-Man sidekicks and seeing who they are actually. I mean, the characters are introduced and you don't have to do very much with them in a television show standpoint for them to have an impact. I mean, I think Hawkeye really proved that. And I'm really excited that Zendaya and the guy who plays Ned might come back.
Zendaya,
in a different way.
AKA the future Mrs. Jeff Williams Jr., I think is important that we give her full title.
Okay. Thank you. Let's put some respect on her name.
Also, there's a really funny interview that they did about the fact that because Zendaya is taller than Tom Holland, she would land first and screw up his superhero landing. And it's really funny. Like, I cannot remember where the interview is, but go find it. It is it's worth the laugh of like, yeah, I'm taller, so my feet land first, and so he's got to like.
I think that's Graham Norton's interview. I'm almost positive.
Yeah.
I've seen so many, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, no. If you want to know anything that Zendaya ever said in an interview, just tweet at Jeff Will Jr. And coincidentally, that is where people can follow you, can't they, Jeff?
Exactly, at Jeff Will Jr. All your social media platforms. If you want to talk about Zendaya. Sometimes superheroes too, but mostly Zendaya. You can find me there.
But not water dragons. Never water dragons.
Definitely not. Definitely
but
not.
But what if Zendaya was a water dragon?
Ooh.
What if she was a water bender?
Exactly.
She got dragon energy, man.
We might have to talk about that. But we'll see. Hopefully Shang-Chi does not include either one of those. Shang-Chi 2.
I totally forgot about the Shang-Chi part of the universe.
Yeah. Shang-Chi 2.
The 10 rings are coming back.
Book of Shadows.
The 10 rings. Yeah. Yes, go.
And
he made it known. He made it known that he is not part of Doctor Strange 2 because everybody keeps asking him if he's coming back. He's put it on his Instagram. He's like, please stop asking me. I guess a lot of people want Shang-Chi and Doctor Strange 2. I wouldn't be mad, but it looks like we have a lot of people already in there.
But here's the problem. Because they went so hard with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, it's like, we're not in this movie. We're not in this movie. Stop asking. Not in this movie. I don't think people are going to buy it.
Yeah,
I think
if
it's
you're not
going to
in
get
something,
worse.
say you're in it. And then people will be like, okay. And then you won't be. And they'll be like, oh, fuck.
Exactly.
They'll be so
I'm in it, guys. Can't wait to see me.
Yeah, bye.
Well,
like put a Spider-Man shirt on and be like, yo.
Kate, always great to get a chance to talk to you and have you here on the show. And we look forward to when your schedule allows for you to be back. But if people want to keep an eye out for you, I understand you've made a few appearances over on Geekscape that someone, Jonathan London, who both William and I know. You're by the time people see this, you'll have done a special where I believe you talk about Witcher, right?
Witcher season 2. Yeah. That's my jam. I have my little ring on with all the signs. I'm very proud of it.
And if people want to keep in touch with you on the Insta, how do they do that?
I can't do this. Michael Shirley's the only one that can do this on the first go, and I'm really irritated by that. Wait, it's over
because
there.
He lives
it's somewhere in the zone.
Oh, I got it. Yeah.
At Cornellable on Instagram, TikTok, and I'm gonna be doing more videos next year. I know I keep saying that. I feel like that's my thing, is I say I do videos and then I don't do them.
Yeah.
But I promise I will, because I'm revamping.
Just do more videos where you're saying that you're going to do more videos. Those
exactly.
Videos.
This counts.
That's perfect.
This counts.
And And Will, apart from being what I consider Bladtcast royalty, where can people find you?
At right there. I get it this time. There we go. At Will Sterling _. It's always fun joining these conversations because I feel like you and I go back to recording these things so many years that if I'm a guest on something, I'm like I like the drunk uncle who shows up for an episode, be like, yeah, I thought it was pretty good, Spider-Man, and I guess we'll see more. It's just woo. That's I feel like those are my opinions. I don't have.
Look, you're just you're here because we needed to celebrate Andrew Garfield, and more importantly, how I was right about him, and how he hates Mondays and loves lasagna.
And how actually, if we got an Amazing Spider-Man 3, I don't think we would have gotten some of the great Andrew Garfield movies that we've had since. So in a way, kind of worked out.
Yeah, you got the best of both worlds, but Yeah, and Will, what are you most excited for? What superhero wise? Is Flashpoint this year, or is that more?
I don't
further
know when
down?
that is. I mean, the Batman comes out soon. So.
Flashpoint is this year.
Yeah, and
Okay.
the Batman is the next big superhero movie, and I believe it will not be simultaneously available on HBO Max.
Morbius
You need to
coming out
put
before the
you need to
Batman?
put some respect on Morbius's name, even though it's going to be a subpar Sony film. It's before Batman.
Yeah. Well,
oh, that comes up before Batman. Okay.
Yeah, that's later in January, and so like I said, the next.
I won't lie. I don't
superhero
really give a
movie
shit
will
about
be
that character.
No, I'm interested in seeing it.
I
Look,
don't. What's his name? Who played the Joker? Is again
Jared
doing
Leto,
something.
not a
Jared
great
Leto.
Joker, but
That's his
he
name.
is typically a good actor in other things. It's like Topher Grace. You know,
Him
he's
as
good in other
Morbius just
stuff.
is the footage of him coming out of his yoga retreat at the beginning of COVID and being like, "Oh my God, it's like the world is ending. Where am I? I just had this like $50,000 yoga retreat and I was sitting in a $20,000 mud bath and it turns out the world is on fire." That's him getting his. I don't know. That's terrible. I'm done. Just mute me.
You're done with Jared Leto.
I'm done with myself.
Well, I was done with him. I was done with him when he broke Claire Danes' heart, and that was almost 20 years ago. 25 years ago. 30 years ago. Jesus.
I'm not over it.
I forget how old I am sometimes. That's literally almost 30 years ago. In any case,
remember that episode where it's like, you can't read, can you?
and there's an episode where he sings. He sings "I Want to Be Sedated" by the Ramones, and he's got this little girl voice, and you're like, what happened to this guy? Anyway, we're gonna do a whole Jared Leto show. Well, that's gonna be our Morbius show. We'll see Morbius and be like, let's just talk about other Jared Leto movies. Although Matt Smith is in that movie.
I know. I mean, I'll see it. I just don't know if I'll see it in the theater. We'll see.
Yeah,
might be a home video. I might go to my local Hollywood video, not Blockbuster, Hollywood.
No, that's one to watch specifically on VHS. You know, that's the only way to watch it.
If it was, I mean, these movies, like both Venom movies, I know we're trying to end, but both of them, I'm like, man, they really just pulled these scripts out of a drawer from 1998. They just made them direct. They made no changes whatsoever, and I feel like Morbius could easily be the same thing, but boy, they were like, wow, somebody wrote these 25 years ago. I guess we should just fucking shoot them, see what happens. They made a lot of money, so what the fuck do I know?
Sony is now like the capital of the anti-hero.
Yeah.
So like, we're just gonna like let them murder a bunch of people.
That's fine.
And like threaten to eat a lady. Like, fine. It's great. That's our lane.
Yeah. That's who Venom is.
And then we're gonna counteract that with like pretty animation.
Well, thank you all, and I look forward to chatting with all of you many times in the new year. It is the new year now, 2022. So lots to talk about in the future. For our Marvel movie news audience, our show will continue to be on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. for the foreseeable future, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. We will have a new show next week, but like this one, it'll have been recorded ahead of time. I will actually be back on the East Coast, and I think that I can actually get Zia Anderson to sit still for an hour, and we're going to do a show in her studio in New Jersey, which is every bit as glamorous as it sounds. But we'll be back with a live show on, if I can get the date right in my head, it'll be Wednesday, the 19th of January.
Yes, you did.
We'll be back at 11 a.m. So hopefully the whole gang will be there, and everybody there out in the audience will be with us. But stay tuned. We've always got plenty of we've got good content. We've got great content. Occasionally we have marginal content on the Bladtcast YouTube channel, but if you subscribe, you're going to get all of it. The Bladtcast, Bladtcast, right there on YouTube. Please subscribe. Thank you all. We will see you next time on the Bladtcast. And as the great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior!